friend of mine gave me a call not too far back, and he said he got the use of a sawmill. So he had some alder on his property, he fell it and cut it up. And mostly what I have here is 1x6 and 2x6. And he took it away and had it kiln dried and brought it back, and he asked if I could make some doors. He's building a house and he wanted some shaker style doors built. So it'll be 1-inch panels on the inside and 2x6 for your stiles and rails. But when he come by with the lumber, I thought, oh God, what have I gotten myself into? Because typically when you have door material, it's number one. It's clear. It's not bad if it's knotty. It adds a little bit of character to it. But they like edge grain so it doesn't twist or cut. Well, what we have here is this fellow's a wizard with metalwork. He's a machinist extraordinaire, and he's quite a mechanic, but he's new to being a sawyer. He's got a little bit of he's got a steep learning curve to work on here, because look at that thing, that's got a propeller in it like nobody's business. And this stuff ended up drying to 1 3/4. I need 1.5 inches of finished material. So typically to take off the propeller, I would lift up both sides and try to plane it out, but I can't because I don't have enough material to work with. So I'll just cut those short into the rails, the longer pieces, like this. And, yeah, they got a bit of a bend in them. Comes up, oh God, 1.5 inches on that end when you push down. So I'll have to straighten up the sides. I'll lose quite a bit of material doing that. I'll probably be under 5 inches by the time I do this. And there's a bit of an issue with the thickness of these things. They go anywhere from, well, 1.5 inches to 2 inches, sometimes 2 inches plus. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge planing that out nice and flat too. But I told him what problems I might have. He just kind of chuckled. He said I was up for the challenge. So I said I'd give it my best shot. And making a little video diary here so you can just see how much of a shot I give it. So it doesn't work out, I try my best, Dwayne. And if it does, well, you owe me big time. Because these boards aren't real consistent in their thickness, they vary from 1 3/4 up to 2 inches. I've got to lay them on a board that I know is flat and consistent to plane them. Or else what's going to happen is that the planer will make it smooth, but they'll go in and out and they'll just be terrible looking creatures. So I put this board on top. The drawback to this is then the boards want to slide over top of each other, and it's a lot more work moving the two boards around. But then you end up with one nice consistent surface. Then when you flip it, you don't need that guide board anymore. You can just flip it on its own and finish it off to hopefully you haven't gone past where you can take it down to 1 3/4 inches. As for the propeller or the twist in the board, there's really nothing I can do about that because I don't have enough wood to work with. If it was a thick board, I could shim up the 2 corners and shave off the corners and bring one side flat, and then again flip it over and get a flat board out of it. But because these aren't thick enough, I'll just have to use those boards for my rails, cut them short, and hopefully I won't have a problem with the propeller twist to them that way. That canoe lift on these boards lengthwise, I'll just end up taking a lot off the sides. I'll be trimming the sides off later. And these are 6-inch boards, well, closer to 5 3/4, and I'll be trimming them back to probably 5 inches, maybe slightly less by the time I'm finished straightening them out. But when you work with this kind of a beast, that's what happens. So let's fire up the planer and see how this goes. So because there's such a variation in the thickness of the board, I had to run it through a couple times. You can only take so much off in a pass. You try to level out one pass and it'll end up jamming up in the machine, so it's just a little more work running around taking shorter passes. Now I've got one side that's level, so I'll throw that board aside, grab another one, and level all the boards off. One side before I head back. Then I can just continue using that thing and then run all the boards through for a consistent 1.5" thickness, taking down the opposite side. So now that I've flattened one side, the face of all the boards, I've got to get started on making the rails, or the stiles, for the top and bottom of the door. They're going to be substantially wider than the boards I have, so I have to laminate a couple boards together. Before I can do that, I have to true up the sides, because these sides aren't nice and square and flat. Take it on this side, you can see it. I'll run it through the table saw to make it flat, give me a good surface to laminate on. I can't run a crooked board along the fence because it'll just follow the contour of the board and I'll just have a crooked, flat face. It just isn't going to do any good. So I've got to put it against another board that I know is nice and flat, run both of them through, and that'll give me another true edge in the board. I'll be up to 2 out of 4 edges will be true when I'm done. Side against your reference board. If you put the side with the bow in it, it's just going to rock as you're running it through. If you put the concave side, top and bottom, hold it tight so it stays nice and flat. So now that I've trued up that side, I can just measure the boards, 5 3/4, bring it back to 5 5/8, and I'll take off too much. True up the third side. I'll do all these boards eventually, but for now I'm just going to do 2 of them. Always got to remember to put the plane face down. The board's sitting flat. You put the rough face down. Again, you can get rocking and you're not going to get a true side. So now you got both sides nice and flat. Just going to run them through the jointer. Put a nice glue edge on it. Jointer is the same as the table saw. You want to put your flat face, your reference face against the fence so everything runs by nice and smooth. And now we're going to have a nice glue joint. I'll laminate these two together. Then we'll have a 10-inch stile. So I got about 11 inches here. I can trim the rest off later. And then when I'm finished, I'll run it through the thickness planer and have a nice bottom style ready to work with. And the top, I'm going to be 7 inches wide. I'm going to cut an arc in it. So I'll laminate the board, then cut the arc in it later. Now again, I'll run it through the thickness planer when it's finished and have a nice 1.5 inch consistent. These are the top and bottom rails that I've trued up the sides with the table saw and then put them through the jointer to make a nice smooth edge for a glue joint. So now I've got them glued up, laminated, and they're just sitting and drying. The boards that will work the worst, I cut them short for the rails, top and bottom rail that I've glued over there, and then the center rail. And I thought cutting them short would take the warp or the twist out, but as you can see, it hasn't. And it's just the rails are what's going to hold this door straight, so I can't have that kind of a twist in the board. So now I'm going to have to go through and send it through the jointer and trim up each opposing corner with a shim, and then hold that nice and tight so the board doesn't flex when it goes through the thickness planer, and take a pass off the top. And what that'll do is now that's going to give me a true edge that's not warped, and then I'll work off that. I'll flip the board over and make a parallel edge on the other side. It's a lot more work. So I just put it over. Now I've got to put it on top of another board, or else when it goes through the planer, it's just going to roll through the wheels and nothing's going to work properly. So there, the shim goes on that side. Another shim on that side, hold it steady. Push back. I got a little board across the front of this 2x6. Because what happens when them two boards press together, sometimes it'll push one off the other, and that just defeats the whole purpose. So this is like a stopper. So it takes the two boards simultaneously through the thickness planer. Now if this worked according to the way it's supposed to, I put the rough side down, it was twisted, you'll see it still flexing. The side was plain. Now it's perfectly true. No flexing whatsoever. And that's what we want. So we're going to do that with every single one of the boards, run them through to get a true side. Having good glue edges on these boards I've laminated, you still have a problem of a twisted board. Putting the two boards together has just exasperated the problem. So what I've done is I've made a sled for the boards I've laminated. It's got a butter on the front where the board butts up against it. It's a good flat surface. It's MDF. So I have to do the same thing. I have to shim up either the opposing corners or the center if it's bowed up, so it doesn't get pushed down when it goes through the planer. So rather than doing it on a level surface, shimming it and walking it over and having a chance of the shims moving, I'll just do it right on the planer. So I bring it through the middle of it. I can feel both sides. Feel how it's twisting there. There's my bad corners. I got the shims. I try to split the difference. Lift up half on one end, half on the other. It's still not enough. Just put another shim in here. A little more on the other end. There, now it's a nice snug fit. It's not moving at all. Pull it back through. Blade. 1/8 of an inch. I don't only take more than 1/8 of an inch, or else it just presses too hard down. Out of the way, hold up the shims, so it's still crooked. And now, if I take this board, flip over that way, put it back, no movement. Dead solid. And that's what we want. One good flat surface. And again, I got to put, I got 6 doors to do. I got 12, 6 tops, 6 bottoms, and 6 center styles, or rails, sorry. Put them all through, level up, and then I can take the thickness off the top, the proper thickness I need, and then move ahead.